Have you ever stopped to consider the salt shaker on your kitchen table? It sits there, unassuming and quiet, just waiting to dispense its little white crystals onto your fries or into your soup. We see it as a simple condiment, a basic flavor enhancer that costs next to nothing at the grocery store. But this humble mineral has a story so vast and intertwined with human existence, it's almost unbelievable. Salt is not just a seasoning, it's one of the fundamental pillars upon which civilization was built. Before we had refrigerators, we had salt. Before we had complex economies, we had salt. This single substance has launched ships, built cities, financed wars, and inspired revolutions. It is the silent, crystalline protagonist in the epic tale of humanity. Think about our own bodies for a second. We are, in essence, walking, talking bags of salty water. Our tears are salty, our sweat is salty, and the electrical impulses that allow our brains to function rely on sodium ions. Without salt, we simply cannot live. This biological imperative has driven humans to seek it out for millennia, often at great cost and with incredible ingenuity. From the misty salt marshes of ancient China to the sun-baked salt pans of the Sahara, the pursuit of this mineral has shaped societies in ways we are only just beginning to appreciate. It's the stuff of life, the stuff of legend, and the stuff of some pretty intense historical drama. This video will take you on a journey through the secret life of salt. We'll uncover how this compound allowed our ancestors to survive harsh winters and cross vast oceans. We will trace the glistening white lines of the great salt trade routes that connected empires and spread cultures across continents. You will learn why Roman soldiers were sometimes paid in salt, giving us the word salary, and how a tax on salt helped spark the French Revolution. So, the next time you reach for that shaker, pause and give a little nod of respect. The narrative of salt is the narrative of human ingenuity and survival. The desire for salt has moved mountains, literally, carving mines deep into the earth, and figuratively, creating vast networks of global trade. It's a substance so precious it has caused bitter conflicts and also laid foundations for lasting peace treaties. Its legacy is etched into our language, our culture, and our very DNA. Prepare to look at that humble grain of salt in a whole new way. Its history is anything but bland. It's a tale with more flavor than you could possibly imagine. Long before the hum of the modern refrigerator became the soundtrack of our kitchens, humanity faced a relentless and formidable enemy: decay. In a world without reliable cold storage, food spoiled quickly, making survival a constant challenge, especially through long winters or during arduous journeys. Once humanity mastered the art of salt production, whether by evaporating seawater or mining it from the earth, salt itself became a commodity of immense value. Its importance for survival and food preservation made salt-powerful regions into economic centers and forced others to trade. This gave rise to the world's earliest trade routes, salty highways connecting distant civilizations. These routes carried goods, ideas, cultures, languages. The quest for salt put the world in motion. One of the most famous of these routes was the Via Salaria, or the Salt Road, in ancient Italy. This was one of the oldest and most important roads leading into Rome. It stretched from the salt works at Ostia on the coast of the Tyrrhenian Sea inland to the city and beyond into the Sabine Hills. Roman soldiers marched along this road, and wagons laden with precious salt rumbled towards the capital. Control of this route kept Rome fed and armed. Across the globe, other salt routes cut through extremes. In the vast Sahara Desert, camel caravans embarked on perilous journeys. For centuries, merchants from North Africa would trade manufactured goods, cloth, beads, for two of West Africa's most prized commodities: gold and salt. In places like Tagaza, salt was mined from the desert floor in huge, heavy slabs. These slabs were then loaded onto camels and transported hundreds of miles to trading hubs like Timbuktu, where they were exchanged for gold. For a time, in certain markets, salt was literally traded for an equal weight in gold. These salty highways did more than just move goods, they fostered deep cultural exchanges. As merchants traveled, they brought their customs, religions, and technologies with them. The trans-Saharan salt trade helped spread Islam into West Africa. In Europe, the salt trade routes controlled by cities like Venice and Genoa helped fuel the Renaissance. These maritime republics grew fabulously wealthy by dominating the Mediterranean salt trade, using their profits to fund the arts and sciences. The intricate web of salt roads demonstrates a simple truth: where salt flowed, wealth and power inevitably followed. It can be difficult for us, in an age where salt is one of the cheapest items in a supermarket, to comprehend a time when it was a source of incredible wealth and a symbol of high status. But for much of human history, salt was a luxury item, a form of currency, a treasure worth fighting for. Its production was often difficult, labor-intensive, confined to specific geographic locations, making it a scarce and valuable resource. This scarcity, combined with its absolute necessity for life, elevated salt from a simple mineral to a form of white gold. The control of salt production and trade was a direct path to power and riches for kings, queens, empires. The expression "worth his salt" is a direct linguistic echo of this era. It originates from ancient Rome, where soldiers were provided with a special allowance to purchase salt, known as a salarium argentum. This salt money was a crucial part of their compensation, as it was needed to preserve their rations and maintain their health. Over time, the term salarium evolved into the modern English word salary, a direct link between the wages we earn today and the salt rations of Roman legionaries. Being worth one's salt meant you were competent and deserving of your pay, a testament to just how valuable that allowance of salt truly was. It wasn't a bonus, it was essential compensation. The value of salt also manifested in social customs and hierarchies. In medieval times, the status of guests at a feast could be determined by where they sat in relation to the salt cellar. To be seated above the salt meant you were a distinguished and honored guest, placed near the host and the precious seasoning. Those of lower rank were seated below the salt, farther away from this symbol of wealth and prestige. This incredible value naturally made salt a prime target for taxation by governments eager to raise revenue. In France, the infamous salt tax known as the gabelle was one of the most hated and unequal taxes in the kingdom's history. The tax varied wildly from one region to another and was brutally enforced, with smugglers facing harsh penalties, including death. The deep resentment over the gabelle was a significant contributing factor to the social unrest that ultimately erupted into the French Revolution in 1789. People were literally fighting for their right to affordable salt. When a resource is as essential and valuable as salt, conflict is almost inevitable. Throughout history, the desire to control salt sources and trade routes has led to political intrigue, diplomatic disputes, and even outright warfare. Nations and city-states battled for exclusive access to salt mines, coastal salt pans, and the lucrative trade routes. These salt wars were fought with the same ferocity as wars for land, gold, religious ideology. Leaders understood a fundamental truth. To control the salt supply was to hold a powerful lever over the life and death of neighboring populations and the wealth of nations. The history books are littered with the stories of these salty skirmishes. One of the earliest recorded conflicts over salt occurred in ancient China. Around 3000 BCE, the legendary Yellow Emperor is said to have fought a great battle for control of a salt lake in what is now Shaanxi province. Later, in the 7th century BCE, the state of Qi became one of the most powerful states in China, largely by establishing a state monopoly on salt and iron. This monopoly provided the government with enormous revenues, funding a strong army and a sophisticated bureaucracy. The city of Venice, the Queen of the Adriatic, built its maritime empire on a foundation of salt. Venice fought a series of wars with its rival Genoa for domination of the Mediterranean trade routes, with the salt trade being a major point of contention. The War of Chioggia in the late 14th century was a climactic struggle between the two seafaring republics. By securing victory, Venice cemented its control over the Adriatic and the lucrative salt markets of the Byzantine Empire and beyond, ensuring its prosperity for centuries to come. Even the outcome of major historical events could hinge on access to salt. During the American Civil War, the Union recognized the strategic importance of salt to the Confederacy. Salt was essential for preserving meat to feed Confederate soldiers and curing the leather needed for soldiers' shoes and harnesses. The Union forces made a concerted effort to capture or destroy the South's key salt works, such as the major facilities at Saltville, Virginia, and the coastal salt evaporation ponds. This strategy created severe salt shortages in the Confederacy, weakening its army and its civilian population. It was a clear and effective use of economic warfare, proving that battles can be won not just with bullets, but by cutting off the enemy's supply of salt. Beyond its roles in preservation, economics, and warfare, salt has also occupied a powerful place in the human imagination. Across cultures and throughout history, this crystalline substance has been imbued with symbolic meaning, becoming a central element in rituals, superstitions, and folklore. Its properties, purity, incorruptibility, and its ability to preserve made it a natural symbol for permanence, loyalty, and protection against evil. One of the most enduring superstitions involving salt is the belief that spilling it brings bad luck. This idea has ancient roots, likely stemming from salt's immense value in the past. Spilling such a precious commodity was, in itself, a form of bad luck. The prescribed remedy for this unfortunate accident is to immediately toss a pinch of the spilled salt over your left shoulder. The logic behind this action was that the devil, or evil spirits, were thought to lurk behind your left shoulder, waiting for an opportunity to cause mischief. Throwing salt in their direction was believed to blind or ward them off, thus neutralizing the bad luck you had just invited. Salt also plays a significant role in religious and spiritual traditions around the world. In many faiths, it is used as an agent of purification. The symbolism of salt extends to gestures of hospitality and friendship. In many cultures, particularly in the Middle East, sharing bread and salt with someone is a profound gesture of welcome and a symbol of a sacred bond of trust. Once you have shared salt with someone, you are bound by the laws of hospitality to offer them protection. This tradition is based on the idea that salt represents permanence and an unbreakable covenant. To break such a bond was considered a grave offense. This custom reveals how deeply salt was integrated into the social fabric, acting as the invisible glue that sealed promises and cemented relationships within a community. When we think about the American Revolution, we often picture muskets, cannons, declarations of independence. We rarely, if ever, think about salt. Yet this humble mineral played a critical, often overlooked role in the colonists' struggle for freedom. Salt was an essential strategic material for the Continental Army. It was needed to preserve meat and to preserve fish, to cure leather for their equipment, and for the health of soldiers and their horses. Before the war, the colonies imported most of their salt from Great Britain and from its Caribbean territories. That supply was immediately cut off with the outbreak of hostilities. This sudden salt famine created a crisis for the revolutionary cause. George Washington and other leaders of the Continental Congress recognized the grave threat. An army, after all, marches on its stomach. Without salt, its food supply was in constant peril. The British, fully aware of this vulnerability, blockaded American ports and targeted any domestic salt-making operations they could find. The struggle for independence was, in part, a struggle for salt. The Continental Congress offered bounties and incentives to encourage entrepreneurs to establish salt works along the coast. The effort to produce salt domestically was a testament to colonial ingenuity and determination. However, these operations were highly vulnerable to British raids. The British Navy would frequently sail along the coast, destroying the salt pans and buildings, attempting to cripple the rebellion by cutting off its supply of this vital resource. Many small-scale but fierce skirmishes were fought over these unassuming coastal salt-making facilities. The salt shortage also hit civilians hard, making winter food preservation difficult and expensive. That hardship fueled popular resentment against the British and strengthened the resolve for independence. The quest for salt even spurred exploration and settlement westward, as colonists searched natural salt licks and salty springs. In the end, revolutionaries scraped by through smuggling, capturing British supply ships, and their own, often disrupted production efforts. It's a salty footnote to history. Wars are won not only on the battlefield, but also in the supply lines that sustain an army. The journey of salt from the earth to our tables is a story of incredible technological evolution. For millennia, methods barely changed. Humans either mined it from subterranean deposits or evaporated it from saline water. Ancient salt mines like Hallstatt, Austria, Wieliczka, Poland, marvels of early engineering. Miners toiling in dark tunnels, chipping crystalline rock. Wieliczka's subterranean chapels, chandeliers, statues, all carved from native rock salt by generations of miners. These mines were Europe's white gold. Coastlines favored solar evaporation, channeling seawater into shallow ponds or pans, the sun and wind evaporating water, leaving crusts of concentrated salt crystals. Perfected on Mediterranean shores, the coasts of India and China, it required knowledge of weather patterns, tides, and engineering to control the flow of water. Sea salt prized for unique mineral content and delicate flavor, artisanal sea salts today. The Industrial Revolution changed everything. Steam-powered drills and machinery made mining easier and safer. A new method, solution mining, was developed, pumping water into underground salt deposits to dissolve the salt, then pumping the resulting brine back up to the surface. The brine is evaporated in large vacuum-sealed vessels, producing fine, uniform, highly purified table salt. Today, production is a massive global industry, but the fundamental sources remain the same: rock salt from ancient underground seabeds and evaporated salt from oceans and salt lakes. What has changed is the scale and the science. Modern table salt is often iodized, a public health innovation from the early 20th century designed to prevent goiter. We have also developed a taste for variety, seeking out specialty salts from around the world: pink Himalayan salt, black Hawaiian lava salt, flaky fleur de sel. Each one tells a story of its unique origin, a modern echo of the ancient trade routes that once moved this precious crystal across the globe. In our modern world of abundance and convenience, it is easy to take salt for granted. It has become so cheap and ubiquitous that we scarcely give it a second thought. We have forgotten its dramatic past as a source of wealth, a cause of war, a foundation of empire. Yet, despite its humble status on our kitchen tables, salt remains as essential to our world today as it was to the Romans or the ancient Chinese. Its role has shifted from the spotlight to the vast, unseen machinery of modern industry. While only a small fraction of the world's salt production ends up in our salt shakers, the industrial demand for salt is staggering. It is a fundamental raw material in the chemical industry, used to produce chlorine, used to produce caustic soda. These two substances are building blocks for a vast array of products that define modern life. Chlorine is used to purify our drinking water and sanitize our swimming pools. Both chemicals are essential in the manufacturing of plastics, PVC pipes, paper, glass, polyester, synthetic rubber. From the dashboard of your car to the screen you are watching this on, there is a high probability that salt played a crucial role in its creation. Salt's traditional roles also continue, albeit in a modernized form. While refrigeration has largely replaced salting as the primary method of food preservation, salt is still a key ingredient in processed foods, not just for flavor, but also for texture and as a preservative. It is essential in the process of cheesemaking, bacon, ham, salami. And in colder climates, salt performs a vital public service every winter. Vast quantities of rock salt are spread on roads and highways to melt ice and snow, preventing accidents, keeping transportation networks functioning. This simple act of de-icing saves countless lives and prevents billions of dollars in economic losses each year. So, the next time you see a salt shaker, perhaps you will see it differently. See it not just as a simple condiment, but as a symbol of a substance that is woven into the very fabric of our civilization. It is a biological necessity, a historical catalyst, an industrial powerhouse. Salt is the unsung hero of our world, a silent partner in the story of human progress. It has been with us from the very beginning, preserving our food, driving our economies, purifying our world in ways both seen and unseen. We may no longer fight wars over it, but our dependence on this simple, miraculous crystal is as strong as it has ever been.